If you went home and there was a beautiful cake on your counter, would you ever assume it came from nothing?
No, I wouldn't.
Why not?
Okay, because I've never seen a cake come from nothing.
So you haven't seen anything come from nothing, right?
Yeah. But if you ask me, logically,
hold on. You've never seen anything come from nothing.
I've never seen anything come from nothing. I've never seen Australia there.
But is it reasonable? Is it reasonable then to assume that the universe couldn't have come from nothing? Something has brought everything into existence that is incredibly powerful, that has knowledge, that has the capacity to bring things into existence at a particular time. And all I'm saying to you is, I'm not saying that's a proof for God. I'm not saying that's an analytical or empirical argument. I'm simply suggesting that it's a reasonable notion to consider. That's all I'm saying. People like yourself who are young in this country are often spending 7 years in comparative research. The average age is about 27.
Yeah.
And they're accepting Islam more than any other religion.
Yeah.
They're not doing it out of blind faith. They're doing it through investigation, through research, spending enormous amounts of time and energy, and they're coming to Islam.
Yeah.
All I'm telling you is just do the same research, just do the same investigation.
Oh, I'll have a little look into
That's all I'm asking you to do.
What you've talked to me about.
So you believe in a necessary existence, yeah?
If you've explained.
But let me go back to my point to you.
The point of
if you were 40 years old,
eloquent and beautiful, that to me is something subjective.
But my point to you is this: you're looking at it from a 7th century perspective, right? I'm saying today, if you were 40 years old,
yeah,
known by your family, known by everybody that you couldn't read or write,
yes,
then you start coming up with a book. You come up with a book.
Yeah.
That becomes the most eloquent speech in the English language that has ever existed and that will ever exist.
Yeah.
And the people generally, those who like you and dislike you, your enemies and your friends, agree that that is the most eloquent speech that has ever existed.
But not everyone does agree with that, do they?
I'm telling you that the miracle of the Quran, or the challenge, was for the classical Arab speaker of the 7th century.
Yeah.
I'm talking about today in the English language. If you were to come up with a piece of work then it became the standard.
Yeah.
In fact, it became the standard by which all English would have to adhere to in terms of its eloquence and its structure.
Yeah.
And not only that, but you would come up with legislation that would be relevant today and even in 14 centuries later.
What would you?
That would be unequaled.
What would you think if I did that then? Like nowadays, what would you?
I would have to say it's a miracle. It's outside the capacity of a human being.
Would you not?
I would say reasonably it's outside the capacity of a human being to come up with a book with prophecies, with things of nature that you have no knowledge about, that doesn't even exist today, things of history that people have got wrong, that you seem to be getting right. You have prophecies that all come true. You have a book that you write, which is completely from memory. Okay, that is unequaled throughout history and will never be equal in the future. I would say that's outside the capacity of a human being. Yes.
I think maybe we've got a different standard then.
So would you say it was humanly possible?
No. I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't say it's. Well, I don't know if I'd say it's humanly possible. What my position would be is, I realise that. I'm so sorry. We keep moving.
That's all right.
My position would be that I'm aware that I'm not the smartest guy in the world, and I don't know a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff. My position on that would be, I've got no idea how I did that.
No, actually, what your honest position should be, once you investigate that, it should be at the very least that this person has claimed that he's going to come up with a bit of literature, a book, and he's going to challenge every English spoken person that you can't better or equal this book in any way whatsoever.
I don't really know what that means.
Hold on a second though. Yeah, look, it's not just one challenge though.
I know.
It's a multiple challenge, multifaceted challenge. And the honest you would say that if all of the most eloquent people of the time today accept that this illiterate man has just come with something that we can't even defeat, we won't be able to even manage to come close, let alone challenge it, then the honest you would say, you know what, at the very least, this guy's done something incredibly remarkable, and I need to investigate how he's done it.
Yeah.
You'd at least do that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right? And then, if this person then prophesized about things, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that at the moment I'm obviously just taking your word for it.
I understand.
I don't.
So when you start adding all of the other facets together, what you realize is that an honest person would have to argue, how did he manage to come up with this? And when you exhaust all of the rational possibilities, the only possibility you're left... Look, I know it's difficult for you to appreciate what I'm saying. You know why? You haven't taken this journey yet. You haven't analysed the claims.
Yeah, not the...
You haven't analysed the reasons, have you? Let's be honest.
Well, I haven't got over the first step, which is accepting that God exists.
Well, but your first step was that you agreed that there has to be something. Something in existence.
Well, as in
there always has to be something that existed. You accepted that notion.
You accept?
You accepted that it is illogical to have traverse an infinite series of events.
I don't know if I did accept that.
I think you did.
Did I?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to bully. I don't want to bully you in the conversation.
Maybe I did. But I can't remember what.
But do you think that you can have an infinite series of events to come to this event today, which is a finite beginning of the universe?
Again, that is something that I would say is so complicated that... Sorry? That's something I would say is so complicated that my position is I don't know if that's a possibility.
Okay. Not knowing is often a reason for people to simply stop thinking.
Yeah. Well,
it is.
I'm definitely open to hearing.
If there were an infinite number of steps before this step, and there were an infinite number of steps after this step, could I ever traverse the infinite series of steps?
Couldn't get to the top. No.
Could I ever get to the top?
No.
There is no top.
No. Yeah.
Because it's forever.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking you.
But
can you traverse an infinite series of steps?
If you're on one of the steps, could you sit there and say, am I on an infinite number of steps?
So you've already climbed an infinite number of steps, and there's still another infinite number of steps ahead of you.
Yeah, but we are like in the analogy, we're on a step right now.
Yes, we are. But that's why it's a finite step. So it couldn't have been an infinite series before.
Infinity is very confusing, isn't it?
You've agreed that you can never traverse an infinite number of steps because it's forever.
No, you can't traverse it, no.
But our universe began at a certain point in time.
Yeah.
It's not infinitely in the history.
Well, the Big Bang happened at a particular time. We don't know what was.
But our universe had a finite beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because it had a finite beginning, it cannot have an infinite past or an infinite potential.
Oh, the universe as we know it.
As we know it.
Yeah, that I guess because we know that there's a beginning to it. It doesn't have an infinite past.
Could there ever be a situation where nothing existed?
I don't want. I hope you don't think I'm like copping out or anything, but I would say I just don't know.
Logically, rationally, reasonably.
Well,
I'm not asking you about empiricism here.
Yeah, I can't come up with an example.
I'm saying to you, can something come from an absolute void of nothingness?
Well, I wouldn't have thought so.
No.
But that's one of those things where you said logically. I'm saying I don't know how you rule it out to 100%. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying there.
Okay, if you went home
Yeah.
and there was a beautiful cake on your counter,
Yes.
would you ever assume it came from nothing?
No, I wouldn't.
Why not?
Okay. Because I've never seen a cake come from nothing.
So you haven't seen anything come from nothing, right?
Yeah. But if you ask me logically,
Hold on. You've never seen anything come from nothing.
I've never seen anything come from nothing. I've never seen Australia there.
But is it reasonable? Is it reasonable then to assume that the universe couldn't have come from nothing? If a cake on your counter could not have come from nothing, how can you then claim that the universe itself came from nothing?
I didn't.
Or what created the universe came from nothing?
No, I didn't. I would say if you're asking me in the normal conversation about a cake, I would be like, no, of course it didn't come from nothing. But when you say logically, can you rule that possibility out 100%? Then
Well, I remember what I said to you. Our conversation is on balance of probability.
yeah, no,
It's more reasonable.
it's absolutely
And
more.
as a fair-minded person,
It's absolutely more
as a
reasonable.
fair-minded person, all I expect you to do is just go with what's more reasonable, what's more plausible.
With the cake, it's definitely more reasonable to assume that it didn't
come from nothing.
And anyone who says it did, I would think there's
Is the
something wrong with
universe more complicated than your cake?
it. It's incredibly more complicated, which is why
Incredibly
I
more
can't.
complicated, yes?
Which is why I can't give as confident an answer.
No, I think what you should then say, something that is incredibly more complicated and has more energy and more power and more organization than the cake,
Yeah.
has more reasons as to why it couldn't have come from nothing, not less reasons.
Why then? Why is how complex it is? Why does that mean that it needs
Because
to?
when you see a rock,
Yes.
you're not as, when you see a little rock,
Yeah.
you're not as let's say enthralled or interested or awe-inspired till when you go and see the Niagara Falls, which is also a big rock with water coming down it.
Yeah.
Because the size of something, the complexity of something, is something that creates more of an interest, more of a, more of a reason,
Yeah.
and more of an importance, right? So what I'm trying to say to you is that if you would be impressed with a cake on your table, wow, just got a nice cream cake here, yeah. I would say you should be infinitely more impressed with the universe.
Oh, definitely, I am.
And where that's come from. And if a cake can't appear from nothing, then I think it's reasonable to assume that the universe didn't appear from nothing.
Yeah, but I'm applying the same standard. I'm saying I can't rule it out. I don't believe that cakes can come from nothing.
What do you think is more plausible? Coming from nothing or coming from something?
It's coming from something.
So accept that.
No, I can't though.
Why do you want to accept that?
Because
you're afraid of where it'll lead to.
No.
You see, that's what happens.
No, it's
I'm
definitely.
telling you, listen, my brother, I've been doing
even
this.
if I accepted
I've been
that,
coming here for 10 years, yeah?
No.
I've been coming here for 10 years.
I'm happy to talk about where that would lead. And I don't think it would lead to a
I've had
fight.
these conversations many times before.
Yeah.
People accept that there has to be something. Generally, not you. Let's say, I think you did as well, but let's say, for arguments that you didn't. People generally accept that. They accept the necessary existence. They accept the universe can't come from nothing because it's not logical, it's not reasonable. We then go to the conversation and we actually arrive at the Quran, God, and guess what they do? They go back to the universe and they say, well, actually, I don't know. Because now they know where the conversation went to.
Okay.
And what I'm saying to you is, if it's reasonable to accept it, accept it.
That's not what happened here, though. Is it?
I think to some extent it did.
I knew that you were mentioned. I wanted to talk about that.
I'm not saying you were. I'm not saying you did it. I'm not saying you did it in a bad way. But I think we agreed because I said to you, "Can something come from nothing?" And you said no. Initially, you agreed that there has to be something comes from something. Nothing cannot produce something.
I was nervous
because
at the beginning.
Okay, look. What is
No,
nothing?
it's fine.
What is nothing? Nothing is an absence of everything. It doesn't have a potential. It doesn't even have a potential to bring something into existence.
Well,
It doesn't have energy, matter. It has nothing, zero, zilch. And you're telling me now that it could produce something?
no, I'm not saying it could. I can't
I'm saying
demonstrate
it's
that it could.
unreasonable. I'm saying it's unreasonable to believe that it could.
No, I'm happy to go down the line of it. Something probably came. Something didn't come from nothing. I'm happy to go down that. I don't think that it would lead me to a God. But all I'm saying
No,
is,
look. But if you agree that there has to be something,
I don't agree that there has to be.
I think now you're arguing. Now I think what you're doing is you're arguing both sides. You're agreeing there has to be something, and you're agreeing that there doesn't have to be something. And I think, look,
No, I didn't. I literally just said that.
there has to be something, right? Yes or no? I mean, what's your stance? Does there always have to be something, or can something come from nothing?
My honest position on that is I've got no idea.
You've got no idea.
I've got no idea.
So you think it is plausible for something to come from
I
nothing?
don't know if it's.
No,
Well, actually-
I don't know is different. Do you think it's plausible
No,
or
yeah.
reasonable to assume that something can come from nothing?
Can you just confirm what you mean by plausible?
Reasonable to accept that notion of reality. Do you think it's a reasonable reality? Okay. We try to stay away from the circus, but the circus follows us sometimes, you know? We have no choice. Look, all I'm saying to you, brother, is this. All I'm saying to you is it reasonable to assume that something can come from an absence of everything?
I think it's reasonable to assume.
Do you want
I
to talk about the Bible?
they just followed us again, didn't they? Sorry. You said, is it reasonable
Is it
to assume?
reasonable to assume that something can come from an absence of everything?
Can something come from an absence of anything? No, I don't think it is.
So by that definition, what that means, by that admission, what that means is that always has to be something.
What
it
does
doesn't.
it mean? No
I'm trying to say. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. 'Cause I don't really talk about this that much. Sorry, I've got to stop moving. All I'm trying to say is, I don't think it either way because I don't think I'm smart enough.
No, but you do. You do. You do. You know why you do? Yeah, you do. Because you already admitted it's more plausible, it's more reasonable, it's more likely that something has to come from something. You've already accepted that notion.
Why not take a stand? I mean,
Because what you're doing, I tell you what you're doing, and I'm being honest here, right? You're a nice guy, and I don't mean it in a harsh way. You know, you're a clever guy. You know that by accepting a reasonable notion of something always has to exist, because we've already had this conversation. You know where it's going to end.
I don't know where it's going to end.
And so,
I don't.
because you do, because
Honestly.
we've had the conversation.
No, we didn't.
Right, we did.
I was interested.
So now what you're doing is you're saying, actually, you know what? Let me go back and say, even though it's reasonable to assume that there has to be something, that you can't have something coming from nothing, but I'm going to now reserve my judgment and say, I don't know.
Okay.
And I think that's not fair. And I'm not saying you're an unfair person. I'm just
Maybe
saying
I
that
made a
you're. I'm just
mistake.
saying that you're playing chess with me now.
All right.
You're moving your pieces retrospectively. So I already got you in checkmate. Now you're going back to and moving the first pawn and say, actually I didn't move it there. I meant to move it over here.
That's not happening at all.
I think you should be sure that
We were talking
why you are not-
about the existence of God, and then someone else moved on
Look,
to Islam.
all I'm saying to you is a very simple argument.
All right.
We exist.
Yeah.
It requires an explanation as to how we've come into existence. It can either be a material cause or an immaterial cause. If it's a material cause, it requires an explanation. You can't have an infinite series of material explanations because we have a finite beginning.
Let's go with it then.
So therefore, something has brought everything into existence that is incredibly powerful, that has knowledge, that has the capacity to bring things into existence at a particular time. And all I'm saying to you is, I'm not saying that's a proof for God. I'm not saying that's an analytical or empirical argument. I'm simply suggesting that it's a reasonable notion to consider. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying, look, okay, I'll prove God, now you must become a believer. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying this is a reasonable argument. Give it the intellectual respect that it deserves, and at least acknowledge that it's a possibility. And when you acknowledge that it's a possibility, and you look at the alternatives, and you realize that actually the alternatives, other than I don't know, there are no alternatives that make logical or reasonable sense, then go with it. Accept it. And just accept that there has to be something that seems to be very powerful and intelligent, that seems to have brought everything into existence. Now the question is that book from that creator? Analyze it. Investigate it. Use your faculties of reason, of investigation. Challenge it, by all means. Scrutinize it. That's what I'm saying to you. Scrutinize it, challenge it. And if at the end of it you're convinced that that connects you to that being, that existence, that necessary existence that brought everything into existence, then it's sensible for you. It's sensible for you to abide by its teachings, because it comes from a source that is all-knowing, that has perfect attributes of wisdom. And if it tells you certain things are harmful, then they are harmful. If it tells you they are benefiting you, they are beneficial. And if it's good for you in this life and good for you in the hereafter, it seems like a sensible thing to follow. But I'm not saying follow it blindly.
No.
I'm saying do your investigation.
Yes.
I'm not claiming that these are analytical or empirical arguments. I'm saying these are reasonable things for you to consider and to investigate. And at the end of your investigation, if you're convinced it's the truth, accept it. If you're convinced it's not, then at least you've given it a fair hearing, right?
Yeah.
You've been an open-minded person who's decided to investigate it. And if you're not convinced by it, then maybe I've done a bad job today. That's what I've done, right? What I'm trying to say to you. But otherwise, don't shut the argument off by just saying, you know what, I'm not even going to consider the first step because I don't know.
Why not? Why?
Because human beings, if they did what you were doing, that I'm not going to make any assumptions. I'm not going to make any hypotheses. I'm not going to so I'm going to just say I don't know. We would have discovered nothing. But we came up with hypotheses. We said, okay, lightning happens. It seems to come out of a cloud. It seems to come because there's some sort of energy that seems to be transferred from the land when it rubs against the land, static electricity, whatever it is. And we came to certain hypotheses. We didn't know it was true. Then we did experiments.
You can't do an experiment about the universe coming from nothing.
No, but what you can do is you can at least acknowledge that the argument for a necessary existence is a reasonable argument, and then build from that. Well, don't deny that by just saying, I don't know, and I'm going to perpetually live as if I don't know, because that would mean that we would discover nothing in life.
Well, it's different to say you don't know when you're talking about something as complicated as the beginning of the universe and a God. That's what I'm trying to say.
I would say the importance of discovering or denying God is more significant to you or to me than this world and everything in it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because whether you deny God or you accept God, both of these have an eternal outcome. Either an eternal nothingness or an eternal life for which you are accountable. This life, you're accountable for this life. Either one has an eternal consequence. So all I'm saying is make sure you get it right.
Okay.
Investigate, do your investigation.
Well, yeah.
Do your research.
I'll look into.
And you know what the interesting thing is?
Talk to me.
The people like yourself who are young in this country are often spending 7 years in comparative research. The average age is about 27.
Yeah.
And they're accepting Islam more than any other religion.
Yeah.
They're not doing it out of blind faith. They're doing it through investigation, through research, spending enormous amounts of time and energy, and they're coming to Islam.
Yeah.
All I'm telling you is just do the same research, just do the same investigation.
Oh, I'll have a little look into
That's all I'm asking you to do.
What you've talked to me about. Okay.
So you believe in a necessary existence, yeah? Let's not go back there again.
All right.
Hey, it was really nice speaking to you.
Yeah, I'm going to pop off.
It was very nice. I'm sorry if I was like a bit over passionate or whatever, because sometimes it can come across that way. I don't mean to be. It might seem rude to you or whatever.
The only thing is that I didn't want you to think I was trying to shift any goalposts. It was. I didn't feel like I was steering the conversation at all there.
Yeah.
We talked about God, and then the conversation moved on to Islam. I didn't try and move it away from that.
I think when we first spoke, we agreed that something cannot come from nothing. I think we did agree to that. I think afterwards, at the end of the discussion, you said, actually, I don't know. So you accepted a notion, and then later, after about an hour and a half of our discussion, because you knew where the discussion ended up, I think you then said, actually, you know what, I don't know. What I'm saying to you is that this is not the...
No, because it was different. It was a different point in the conversation.
No, but you accepted a necessary existence.
At the beginning, if you came up to me and said, do you believe that a cake can pop into existence? I would have said no.
No.
But then later on, we were talking about the logic of it. Yeah. And it's like, well, logically, can you rule it out to an absolute? And it's like, well, no, I can't rule that.
No, but I said to you...
I didn't change my mind.
No, but I said to you from the very beginning, we're not talking about absolutes here.
Okay.
We're talking about balance of probability.
Okay, well, I just didn't understand.
Yes, you did, because I spoke to you about Australia. Why do you believe Australia exists? I've never been to Australia. You've never been to Australia. But on balance of probability, we both accept Australia exists because we have good reasons to believe so, right?
Yeah.
And evidences to believe so. People might say, oh, photographs of Australia. Well, the photographs of Australia could be New Zealand. How do you know it's not New Zealand? How do you know it's not Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah? But because we believe in testimony, multiple testimony, we believe in those photographs, we believe in the videos. There's people who come here with an Australian accent that we can't understand. I'm just joking. Right? So what I'm trying to say to you is that because of all of those reasons, we accept that notion, right?
Yeah.
Is it empirical and analytical? I would say, is it 100%? I would say, well, I'm as sure as I could be, but there are no 100%. There are no analytical or empirical evidences that could not be any other way. Okay?
Yeah,
but I'm not expecting you to abide by those rules. I'm just saying, is it more reasonable to accept that or this?
Well, no, because...
And if it's this, accept it.
With the example of Australia, we're talking about testimony, maps and photos and stuff. That's all stuff that we know about.
Yes.
But when we're talking about the universe, talking about the concept of nothing.
Yes.
And we don't have any examples of that.
No,
so that's why I'm saying I don't know much.
We can conceptualize that if somebody says nothing, it's the absence of anything.
Yeah.
So no matter, no energy, no potential. It doesn't even have a potential to bring something into existence.
I was happy to move on from that, though.
Yeah.
I wasn't saying that I think that something.
Look, I don't think you're a bad guy. I'm not saying you're shady. I'm not saying you're like, I'm not saying any of that. I think you're a nice guy.
Thank you.
I'm being honest.
You're a very nice guy too.
I think you're a nice guy. I'm being honest here, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that if we sort of agreed that it's unreasonable to assume that things can come from nothing, let's at least agree upon that. I'm not saying it's analytical or empirical to the extent where, we've seen photographs or we've got videos or we've actually seen nothing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying conceptually, it's reasonable to assume that if you have the absence of everything, that something cannot come from it, because there isn't an it anyway. It's the absence of it. It's the absence of everything.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to assume, and I was happy to move on and talk about
fine.
that.
And therefore, there always has to be something in existence.
Okay, but then we're talking about. You think that thing would be God?
It's necessary. No, I'm saying to you.
Oh, it's necessary.
It's necessarily that something then therefore had to always exist.
Okay, fine. Let's go there.
Yeah, and this thing, from it, everything else comes.
Okay.
And it seems to have immense power Because there are more stars in the universe, just our universe, right, than grains of sand on every beach of Earth, on Earth.
Yeah.
More stars, and in fact, the new telescope they launched, the James Webb, they say that that estimate could be 100 times greater.
Okay. Yeah.
So now bring in 100 Earths, and all the beaches of those 100 Earths, there are more stars in this universe than grains of sand of all of those 100 Earth's beaches. So whatever brought this thing into existence has to be incredibly powerful.
Sure. Yeah.
And the universe came into existence at a particular time.
It's just like the Big Bang was incredibly powerful.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, exactly.
But it came into existence at a specific time.
Yeah.
So now you could argue it had to have a will, or it decided to bring this thing into existence, this universe, 13.8 billion years ago, or 20 billion years ago, or 40 billion years ago.
I don't understand why it needs to have a will.
I'll tell you why it has to have a will. Because if this necessary existence always existed eternally, and it had the properties to bring this universe into existence, then it had an eternity to have done it already. But it didn't do it.
Okay, yeah, no,
But
that's
it
what we
did
were
it
talking
at a
about before,
specific time, 13.8 billion years ago. Therefore, it had to decide. It had to be a conscious decision.
Isn't the religious or theistic stance on that time began at the Big Bang? So there wasn't any time for God to make decisions.
Our concept of time starts at t equals 0, when the universe springs into life.
Yeah.
The point is that the argument of contingency is not reliant on time.
But didn't you say that he had that time to make the decision?
Okay, what I'm saying is that the argument of contingency, i.e. the universe being assembled in a particular way, requiring particular things for its existence, like laws of gravity, etc., etc., that means it's contingent and reliant on something else. So even within our concept of time beginning at the t equals 0 or the Big Bang, that doesn't negate the fact that it's contingent and therefore reliant on a preceding step that is not necessarily within our dimension of time or space.
Okay.
But it still requires a step preceding it.
Sorry.
And look, what I'm saying to you is, this is not necessarily an empirical or analytical argument for the existence of God. I'm just saying it's a reasonable argument, and it requires a reasonable amount of investigation. That's what I'm saying. Now, there are some people who will argue, regardless of balance of probability, I'm going to just sit on the fence and just say, I don't know. But I'll tell you what, if the balance of probability was on the materialistic side, i.e. that the universe was eternal, let's say for argument's sake, and all the scientific evidence pointed to an eternal universe, they wouldn't be sitting on the fence any longer. They'll accept that probability of the universe being eternal, because that's what our science seems to show us.
Well, no, that's because then we have an explanation for it all.
No, it's because we want. Would it be empirical, analytical, 100%? Could it not be any other way?
Logically, it always could be another way.
But why would you then accept that notion without challenging that notion? Because now it denies the existence of God, and that's more palatable. So they no longer would be sitting on the fence on that. They will then quite conveniently accept that the universe is eternal, therefore you don't need a God. But because it goes against their predispositions of what they want to accept or deny, they want to sit on the fence.
I don't think that is...
Listen, I tell you something.
No,
that's exactly what it is.
I don't think that is...
I'll tell you why. Because Einstein himself first believed in the static state model, right? He believed that the universe was a static state. It was eternal. And then came, Hubble and other, redshift and everything else. And then they realized, hold on a second, it's not a static state, it's expanding. Yeah. That posed huge questions now for science. Well, expanding to what? Expanding to where? Where did it expand from? Okay? Because they knew the implications. The implications were that now it has a beginning. Now when something has a beginning, it has implications. Okay? But the static state model was accepted by people as a means to deny God. Because now you didn't need God in the equation because it was always there. That was just a hard fact.
Yeah.
Now came the new theories through observation and experimentation that actually the universe is expanding, actually had a beginning. Now people want to suddenly sit on the fence.
I mean, I've always sat on the fence with it.
Don't sit on the fence too long because it's uncomfortable. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah.
Get onto a nice comfy chair.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah. All right then. I think I got it. Yeah.
Nice
It was nice. To
Take
speak
our
to you.
email address
Okay.
and let's have this conversation. Let's have a coffee.
Yeah. No, that'd be
Do
nice.
your investigation
All right.
because it can come across a bit preachy, right?
Nah.
And a bit sort of like, let's have a coffee. Do your investigation. Well, I tell you truthfully, challenge anything that you find out about Islam, or you know about Islam, or you investigate about Islam.
Yeah. All right.
And if you're satisfied at the end, then accept it. And if you're not, at least you've given it a fair crack, a fair chance.
I'd accept it if I was satisfied, but yeah, sounds good. All right, thank you very much.
It's really nice to meet you.
That was nice to speak to you.
Anis, can you give him a card? Because then he can maybe follow. He's got the card there? Oh, he's got the card. So our channel's on there as well. So you can view our video and stuff, yeah?
Okay.
It's nice to speak to you.
Nice
You have
to meet
a
Nice
nice
to meet
day, yeah?
you.
Okay.
You too.